Welcome back, investors, to Ticker Time News. I'm Adam, and thank you for joining me today for the After Hours show. I'm glad you're here. Remember, the most important thing about this show is you. So whatever's on your mind, if you have a question, leave that ticker symbol and your question in the comments, and we will go over it live during the show. We had another stock explode today in price action due to an offer being made and an offer being accepted to take over. And of course, Intel is now buying Tower Semiconductor. That's a crazy move. So I'm going to go in and share my thoughts on what I think Intel is up to and what I think they're doing. But real quick, here on the S&P 500 specifically, if we look at this, we had a nice bounce today. And if I go and look at the 5-minute chart for the S&P 500, look at the volume that closed today out. Look at this. I'm going to circle this just to point it out. But this volume here at the end of the day, you can see it right here with these 3 green bars. That volume to close out the day for today was incredible. Incredible. Look at the volume to this also this morning. Let me scoot this over a little bit. I don't want my head in the way of this one. But yesterday, we had a big red candle to end the day, right? So we ended the day selling. So a big 3 red candles going into the close. And again, this is the 5-minute chart. So I'm going to change that color to red. So yesterday, to close out the day, we had 3 big red bars. So the last 15 minutes of action brought the market down, but not too much. As a matter of fact, if we measure yesterday's last 3 bars, it would look like this. About 1/10%. 1/10% for yesterday. But today, the last 3 bars, measure up to that 3rd bar, was 0.2%. So it looks like huge volume because the whole day volume is like flat, right? We had this 1 green candle as soon as the market opened this morning that shot the market up, and then the market traded sideways for the rest of the day. And then we got 0.2% added at the very last 15 minutes of the day in a big spike in volume. Why I wanted to point this out today is that big spike in volume to close out the day. That last 15 minutes were 3 green bars compared to yesterday, where we had 3 red bars to close out the day. It's a completely different setup from yesterday. So what I suspect tomorrow, as long as the macro news of the market stays positive and Russia doesn't make any crazy moves, if Russia continues to de-escalate, then we could see another rally tomorrow in the market. Because we had inflation news come out today, the PPI data came out today, and it showed that inflation was red hot. But I think investors already knew inflation was hot and just didn't care about that report. But I'm going to talk about that in just a moment too. So we end a 3-day losing streak, and we have a beautiful close for today. And it's just wonderful, 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 wonderful. I think it's setting up for a positive day tomorrow. All right, so looking back here on the daily chart, there's one thing I want to point out, though. As we can potentially see a rally coming in the short term, this red line up here and this red box highlighted in yellow, this is going to be a critical area for the S&P 500. We're about 2.5 percentage points away. Let me measure it real quick. I think it's about 2.5. Yeah, we're about 2.6% away from that red line. And that red line is going to be critical because the past 2 times we have gotten up to this red line, which sits about 45.90. So on the S&P 500, 4590 rejected on, what would this be? February the 2nd, and rejected on February the 9th. So it's going to be a very critical level to watch. Again, that is 4590 on the S&P 500. If we can rally up to that, it'll be very important. So talking about the market today, boy, oh boy, did the market welcome a potential de-escalation in the Russia-Ukraine situation, as all three main U.S. stock indexes, they rebound for the third straight session of losses, right? We just came off of 3 sessions of losing. We can count the candles, 1, 2, 3, and then we have our win today, our candle in the green. All right, the Dow Jones, it closed up 421 points. The S&P 500 was up 1.6%. The Nasdaq jumped 2.5%, but the Russell 2000, the small caps, they outperformed with a 2.8% gain as fears of an imminent war in Europe eased. Totally. That's what this market was celebrating today, basically. President Putin said he intends to negotiate security guarantees through diplomatic channels. All right. So I'm not a State Department expert by any means. So diplomatic channels is what they're talking about right now. We'll see. I'm still iffy because the Olympics are going on, right? This could be a fake out move by Russia. The U.S. has said they have not verified yet, at least last time I read, they haven't verified what Russia's talking about, but the Olympics are still going on. And with Russia and China being buddy-buddy, well, Putin doesn't want to upset Xi Jinping while the Olympics are going on in China right now. So I think if Russia is going to do anything, it's going to be after the Olympics are over. So this could be a fake out, but we take what we can get right now, right? Okay, so Russia did say that some of the military units have already pulled back and gone to their bases. Meanwhile, the Fed's looming tightening cycle, it took a secondary stage today. Put it on the back burner, even as producer prices rose faster than expected. Now, the key takeaway from the PPI is that producer inflation pressures are clearly elevated. They are high. That is going to crimp profit margins unless those higher costs can be passed right on to the consumer, which is a problem unto itself because that just raises the price for the consumer. Net, inflation is all around us and has yet to show any meaningful signs of weakening. That's what the PPI data says, on top of the CPI data from last week. Now, on the earnings front today, there were a lot of good earnings. Marriott International, it showed Q4 results beat market expectations. It showed Airbnb was up and has great guidance going forward. So that's really good for leisure and travel type stocks. Investors are now awaiting the FOMC minutes. They will be released tomorrow morning, and we'll be looking for clues about the timing and scale of future rate hikes. Yes, sirree. All right. The S&P 500 closed at session highs today, reclaiming its 200-day moving average at 44.55. That's the orange line coming across the bottom of your screen, or it's coming across like this. Let me draw this line, and then I'll change the color. It's looking like that right now. All right. And I'll change the color to match the line. So that's what we have with the 200-day moving average right now. If we look at this line, it's great that we're above it, but we're still in a weakened position. The 50-day moving average is quickly approaching this yellow box right here. All right. which I just talked about a few minutes ago. If we can have a nice bounce off this 200-day and continue moving, that yellow box is going to be so critical. Back here, when we tapped the red line, we got rejected. We actually came down and bounced off the 200-day moving average on February the 4th, and then, of course, went back to retest the red line there at 45.90 on February the 9th and got rejected again. So can we bounce? Can we get past it? Is there enough momentum? Or will this be it? And then we'll be headed lower than what we saw here when we came in between 4,300 and 4,200 on the S&P 500. That's the big question. Now, the S&P 500 doing this, its gains today. 9 of the 11 S&P 500 sectors did carry gains as well today. Information technology was up 2.7%. Consumer discretionary was up 2.1%. They led the advance. Now, energy was down 1.4%, and utilities were down 0.6%. Those were the two sectors that closed lower. Now, energy stocks, they struggled today with the retracement in oil prices. If I pull oil up here, got to spell it right. If we pull oil up here, we can look at crude and Brent. Let's pull crude up. You can see this thing has been on fire. Oil prices have just been going up and up and up and up, staying above its 21-day moving average. Today was its biggest loss, down 2.92%. All right, for crude oil here. This was its biggest loss. We have to go back to, what is this, November 30th of 2021. November 30th of 2021, oil dropped 4.4%. So we have to go all the way back to the end of November to see oil drop as fast as it dropped today. And the big reason why oil came down was because of the de-escalation in the Russia-Ukraine situation, right? So when, gathering my thoughts here right quick, oil coming down, that helped to bring other oil stocks down. So you saw ExxonMobil, Chevron, they were both pulled down in the market today. So getting below $90 and 23 cents here for crude. If we look at Brent, Brent was down 2.8% to $91.61. So again, we haven't seen a pullback like this in oil since the end of November. And this was obviously a result of easing geopolitical anxiety that's out there, which also led to a 5 basis point increase in the 10-year yield, and it settled at 2.05. But remember, right around that 2% mark, give or take a little bit, there is a strong wall of resistance right there that's keeping a lid on this thing. But it did seem like with the 10-year going up today, NASDAQ going up today, that connection that they've had where if one goes up, one must go down, that seesaw effect kind of was broken today. All right, here's where we stand year to date, and then we'll check on crypto real quick. The Dow Jones is down 3.7% year to date. S&P 500, 6.2% year to date. Russell 2000, 7.5% down year to date. And the NASDAQ is down 9.6% year to date. The one good thing that I can say about those 4 main indices being down year to date is that all 4 of them are now currently and technically out of correction territory. So that's good news. All right, BTC. Well, first, let me go to gold just real quick. I like to do gold right before Bitcoin because I see a connection there. Gold down today pretty sharply, pretty sharp fall, but that was expected. It was down 0.95% today, and it closed at 1853 an ounce. All right, so that's where gold's at. And in the after hours, it's down a little bit more to 1852.31. But the reason we knew it was going to get rejected here is if we look at gold, back here in November 16th, gold broke above this resistance line here. And this resistance line is right at 1871. 1871, gold got rejected, okay? The candle wick broke above it, but it couldn't close above it. It ended up coming all the way down to 1849. So a few bucks there, right? Maybe 30 or so, 25. So today, the same thing happened. Yesterday, the wick broke above, but it could not close above that resistance line. It closed just below it, just pennies below it, by the way. And then today, the wick again, it tried to break above this. The wick did, but the candle ended up closing back down in its ascending trading channel. So now that it's back in the channel, it's liable to stay in here now for a little while moving forward, but still overall moving up and to the right on the chart. It's just taking it a little longer to get there, but it is slowly moving higher. Okay, BTC. USD on TradingView, and there is a link in the account in the description for a free account to TradingView, with all my crazy lines on the screen. But I want to show you Bitcoin and what it's doing right here. It's at 44,245 right now. It's up 3.99% at the moment, and it is above this ascending trend line right here, which I think is a good thing. What I pointed out yesterday is that Bitcoin was using its 50-day moving average as support, and that shows a very positive, very bullish structure. Remember, bullish above, bearish below on that 50-day moving average. So it's a very important average for anything that you're looking at. Stocks, crypto, it doesn't matter. That's important that it held above that. And now it's also above that trend line, which it was back here for a couple of days. It was able to close above it. Let's call it 4 days. It closed above that trend line. That's good. If Bitcoin can get above this trend line and close above it and stay above it, that's just extra positivity going into Bitcoin at the moment. All right, Ethereum was up even more, about 6% the last time I checked it. ETHUSD on the chart, and it is now up 6.8% to 3130, so it's moved even higher. Now, Ethereum has been below its 50-day moving average over the past several days. Today, right now, though, the day hasn't closed. The candle hasn't closed, but right now it is above that 50-day moving average. And we can go back here and look. There was one day, February the 9th, it closed above that 50-day moving average, but the very next day is when it came back below it. Can we get it to close back above that 50-day moving average? That would be awesome. It is back above that ascending trend line, which is an extra positive for me. I don't want to see it go below that trend line because just like Bitcoin, that's the bottom line. If we go below that, we're in unprecedented territory, and we have no idea where the thing's going, right? All right. So above the trend line and above the 50-day moving average right now, up 6.8% on the chart right now. And right now, Ethereum is down 14.7% year to date. All right, we need to move on and talk about the M&A sector. All right. M&A stands for mergers and acquisitions. Earlier this year, you can go back and watch live streams at the beginning of January. I said this would be a year for consolidation. M&A is consolidation. When a bigger company buys a smaller company to become a huge company, right? That's M&A. This year, all 2022 is going to be filled with M&A. Big companies buying smaller companies to become huge companies, all right? So earlier this week, it was Cisco bidding for Splunk, and now it's Intel taking over Tower Semiconductor, all right? The ticker symbol is TSEM for Tower Semiconductor. Wait to see how much they were up today. It looks like it looks like people standing on the ground looking up at a shooting star. 42% today. 42%. So let me mark where the candle is right now. It's all the way up here. All right. Let me just quickly change that color. All right. So that circle, that's where the stock price is right now, all the way up there at $47.07, a nice 42% jump today. And quite frankly, it could have gone higher because the premium that Intel is paying for Taiwan Semi, for Tower Semi, is more than 42%. So Tower Semi is towering. I mean, look at that. It is a big tower. Towering higher today after agreeing to be acquired by Intel. And Intel's ticker symbol is INTC. Now, Intel is paying $53 a share in cash, which is a 60% premium over yesterday's close. So that's why I said this thing could have gone up more than 42% today. It could have gone all the way up to $53 a share or 60%, not stop at 42. So a big premium that Intel is paying for Tower Semiconductor. Now, the deal, which was unanimously approved by the boards of both companies, is expected to have an immediate impact on Intel's non-GAAP EPS. And the deal should close in approximately 12 months. Now, context is important. Pat Gelsinger, he took over as CEO of Intel exactly 1 year ago today. And he has not wasted any time putting his stamp on the direction of the chip giant. Probably the biggest strategy now underway is Intel's plan to spend billions of dollars on new capacity. Intel is the only major U.S. chip designer that still manufactures its chips domestically, all right, here in the United States. Most chip companies are fabless, meaning they design their chips, but they farm out the manufacturing of them to third-party foundries, most located in Asia. That's right. Most people following the company had thought that Intel might change course, right, and do something different and become a fabless chip company itself. However, Intel went in the opposite direction expanding production capacity for its own chips and planning to become a major provider of foundry capacity in the US and in Europe for other chip makers. This deal to acquire Tower Semi is a further step in that direction. Not only does it add foundry capacity, but Tower's expertise in specialty technology such as radio frequency, power, and industrial sensors will expand Intel's offerings to third parties. Also, Tower Semi serves high growth markets such as mobile, automotive, and power that are attractive to Intel. Intel recently announced capacity expansions in Arizona and New Mexico, as well as plans to build a new mega site in Ohio. Today's deal clearly shows that Intel will go beyond new greenfield sites and acquire existing capacity as well. Bottom line, this transition makes it clear that Intel is going full steam ahead on building up its chip manufacturing base. Given the chip shortage, increasing scrutiny of Chinese tech companies, and of course the COVID supply chain disruptions in Asia, Intel seems to be striking while the iron is hot with capacity expansion. Some may nitpick, though, at the big premium Intel is paying, but the deal size is small at $5.4 billion. A more reasonable premium might be $4 to $4.5 billion, but what's $1 billion when Intel's massive $193 billion market cap is just, what's a billion? I don't know. It's a lot to me, though. Okay, the huge expense of building new capacity from the ground up must have weighed on the decision to just go ahead and buy a company that's already there. It's probably cheaper to do that in the long run. Now, the benefit of Tower Semi is that through it, Intel will hit the ground running with foundry capacity ready to go right now. Let's go, baby. Let's build those chips right here in the US and in Europe. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap this one up here. Remember, if you do have questions, just leave the ticker symbol in the comments. And of course, we'll be happy to go over it during the show. So if you are watching the replay of this, leave the ticker symbol and we'll get a video out on it or talk about it during the live stream. All right, if you found this video to be helpful, informative, actionable, then click the like button and grab the URL to share this video wherever you can. That really helps us out to meet our goal of financial freedom for everyone. And if you found this video to be, I don't know, if you like the perspective, I guess I should say, then click the first link in the description to get our top 10 stocks list and so much more. We just put out our updated top 10 growth stocks. Our top 10 momentum stocks for the week have all gone out today to members. So make sure you click that first link in the description to get those lists. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll go ahead and wrap up the video here. I want to thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.